we here. I go by the name of DJ Bless, aka Sutter Kane. I'm here with Ruben of Elysia Audio, one of my favorite audio brands, hands down, that I have used in the past year or two and stuff. It's definitely been a game changer in my setup. It's nice to meet you, and I'm glad to be here talking to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, DJ Blast.
we had to get the cinematic intro going. This is the part where the titles come across the screen and stuff. We're making it happen, so we do the little jiggle dance. But dude, what I wanted to talk to you about today with your gear, man, is like I said, it's been a game changer in my setup as far as production goes and as far as mixing goes. Your gear has definitely been one of the few pieces that I've seen that is very transient based. And what I mean by that is that it's not trying to slow the transients down. It's trying to enhance the transients that you have. An example of that type of music is hip-hop and EDM, which is a very transient-based genre where it's very highly on kicks, snares, 808s and stuff. And I noticed that your gear lets you manipulate those type of transients and those type of sounds and stuff. Now, when you started making this gear, did you have that in mind? Were you a producer first, or did you say, okay, we're going to make something totally different compared to before?
That's a good question, because exactly when you design gear, you have to have an idea in your mind what it should sound like. Like when you're producing and mixing a track, they have an idea what kind of direction you want to go. And therefore, my reference is more based in the beginning of the 90s, but more rock bands like Pink Floyd,
really?
like Dire Straits, and also some Genesis. So these were all my artists. But the recording in that days were really made with great transients in the drums, with a lot of dynamic. And this was my reference. And with Pink Floyd, these huge soundscapes they creating with their tracks. And I think this is what it was my mind. But and also was in electronic music, and know that this is very important, that all the kicks and drums are very important to bring the people to dance on the dance floor. And therefore, it's for me the transients and then the clearness and the power in the music is very important to me.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like I said, your stuff is definitely not a slowed down transient-based gear, all the way from the Museq EQ, the Mpressor, the Nvelope. Everything is straight up we want the drums, we want your transients to kick through. So if you're at a stadium or a club or any place, when they hear that mix or hear your production, it translates very well through the speakers, you feel what I'm saying? And everything like that. So that's what I definitely got from the gear, unlike other gear, which, like I said, wants to slow the transients down. And that's shocking that you would be more into the Genesis and Pink Floyd, because I was thinking more okay, he might be into Depeche Mode or some of that nature, because it was very transient-based bands back then, or NXS or stuff of that nature.
This was more the recording itself. So because especially the Dire Straits, the last album, I think was 91, the drums with a lot of transient in there, so there wasn't a lot of dynamic in there. And if you have a snare drum in a rock band or maybe electronic track, it's have the same thing what the snare should do. But this is what drives me more, because in the 80s there was not that much electronic music what could be my reference. So therefore, from the sound vision, it's more rock. But actually, there's so much great also electronic music out there, which is similar, with a huge soundscape, effects and depth and reverbs and delays and kicks that are really upfront. And when I listen this kind of music on a big sound stage, it's wow, this is like cinema. And therefore, this drives me. And that was my vision in terms of music, and how when you process something that you keep closer to the music.
Yeah, I can see that. That's what I'm saying. You can get, it's more of a 3D sound and stuff as far as the closeness to the music. Like I said, because of the transients and stuff. Unlike other stuff where it'll smooth it out, but it won't be as high transient. It's more of just a feel than anything. Where this one's a feel and it's a punch. So you feel it. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, no, that's what I love about it. I personally tell all my friends this, man. I really believe your gear is made for hip hop producers and stuff, 100%, man. Because we love drums. We love drums. Drums have to knock. If the drums don't knock, your production's trash. You feel what I'm saying? So your Mpressor stays on my drum bus.
Yeah, I mean, the drums is also important at, let's say, rock music. And if you're standing next to a drum kit and hear a drummer hitting the snare, it's really bam in your face.
Yeah, it's in your face, yeah.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, if you have a not so good recording, you're in the studio, hey, where's all the smashing, where are the transients? And then you're using, in the back in the days, compressors to recreate the transients, because they were lost in, let's say, the microphone or the preamp or whatever mixing desk. because the transients are lost, and therefore you need tools to bring up the transients again. And therefore, it's so important to build equipment that has a transient itself or don't lose this. For example, analog equalizers, there are a lot of stages in there, and when it's not well designed, you lose the transients. Even if all's in zero position, you switch it in, you lose something. Maybe it's the transients, the clearness, the depth, and therefore then it comes to circuit design to prevent this or to hold all this energy, what's also in the music itself.
Yes, no, I totally agree. Like I said, when you put it through certain EQs, if you put a drum, let's say you put a drum through something that's very transformer based, automatically the drum is going to slow down, whether it's the EQ, even when you just put it in there. Unlike the Mpressor, when I put my drums through the Mpressor, I have my Mpressor set to set and forget it. So when I put it on the drum bus, man, my drums just like blow up automatically. Automatically my drums just blow up. And I've done an A/B before and after without the Mpressor and with the Mpressor. It's like night and day. Like me personally, I can't see me doing my production or mixing without the Mpressor on the drum bus. You get what I'm saying? So with the whole Mpressor, what was your mind state with that? Like to create something like what made you say, I'm gonna create this compressor that's like because I've never seen a compressor like that has like the negative ratios, the tilt, EQ on it. I mean, it's like really a well thought out compressor. Was that one of the first pieces that you thought of design, or did you have something else and then you built off of that?
Yeah, the story about the Mpressor is also funny because in 2006, when the Alpha came out, we went to studios in Los Angeles and New York and some studios, and some engineers tried to force the Alpha to extreme settings, but it's not made for extreme settings. I mean, with the Alpha we can also do negative ratios, but it's always you don't feel that there's any problem with that. And so I decided, okay, let's create a specific device for creative purpose. And I know, in that tour, I was in a hotel room starting my first schematics for the Mpressor, and then I came up with all these specific ideas, negative ratios, with the anti-lock function, with the gain reduction limiter, with the filters in there that you can really shape the sound to specific sonic characters so that the device at all is more clean, but with the filter you can direct them to more warmer or brighter tones. So, and that was the idea of the Mpressor, and I think it's very unique and in the way how it's designed and what it can do. And this is really the unit for electronic music. So if people ask me, hey, what can I do with the Mpressor? Then I ask, hey, what kind of music are you doing? So let's say classical music, I think it's not the right device for you. But everything about hip hop, electronic music, drum and bass, and also rock, where you really want to push something and even want to go further and use it as a creative toolbox, then the Mpressor is the right thing.
No, I totally agree, man. Like I said, man, for me, I've had tons of drum, like bus compressors or drum stuff that I put on my drum bus before the Mpressor. Like, I mean, I've had a ton, man. But when I got the Mpressor, all those got sold and stuff, man. I just kept my Mpressor. My Mpressor stays. I mean, it's literally, I set it one good time, and it's like, forget it. And so I just push my drums into it, coming out my summing mixer, push into it, and it just like, my drums just blow up, man. I mean, it just hits hard, man. So that's what made me be like, that was one of my first pieces I got from you was the Mpressor and stuff. And I was just like, oh, wow. I had a friend of mine who was telling me about the Mpressor probably about 2010 or 11. At the time, I don't think I was ready for it. But when I got it recently, within the last year, it's been on tons of top records that I've done, where it's like, it's definitely been a game changer, man. Now, I want to ask you about the Alpha, man. Now, when it comes to the Alpha, was that your first, like, did you start off with a transient designer first, or did you go straight to the Alpha and then not cut down, but did you go straight to the Alpha and say, okay, this is my main idea, and I'm just going to make things from there? Like, you feel what I'm saying?
My background is that I worked previously at the German company SBL Electronics for 10 years as an electronic engineer. And I developed a whole of stuff there, preamps and also compressors, mixing devices, and one of the famous devices was the Transient designer. So this was originally really my idea to have this simple circuitry for designing transients. And in 2005, I left SBL, and then I started my own company with a partner in 2006. And then the Alpha was the first one to have a statement. Hey, people, here is Elysia, and that's our statement.
Yeah, because the Alpha, I definitely want to get my hands on the Alpha. I'm going to be honest with you. We got to talk about that because I definitely want to get my hands on the Alpha, man. I have like all your stuff except for the Alpha. That's what I do need, you know what I'm saying, to fulfill my collection and everything. But no, I've noticed that, man, like even with the envelope, man, you could take a kick that's so puny and tiny and just crank it, and that thing is going to hit through the speakers like crazy, man. And that's why I was wondering, like, okay, did you start, like you just answered that, you start off with the Alpha and then you say, okay, this is the Alpha and this is our main centerpiece and we're going to basically create from this and stuff. And I've noticed that, man. I love like everything, your saturator, everything, man. Now, back to the Mpressor, man. Do you have like secret settings that you personally use that you would love to give people where you're like, yo, you should push it this way? Like if you push it hard enough this way, it does this and that? Because I have my own way and stuff, yo, but I would definitely want to know, since you created the thing, like, do you have like a secret, like, man, if you push it this much dBs in, it'll do this?
So it's a funny question because when I have trade shows and people come in, I have only one very boring drum loop going on, and then I make the people, let's say, 10 different sounds with the Mpressor, from very groovy, from smashing, from pumping, from negative ratios, or you only hear the hi-hats. So it could be everything. So therefore, I don't have any personal settings because you can do everything. I mean, if you use it for mastering, most of the case you only do a few dB, but when it comes to very creative things, then the Mpressors really can do very specific things and is outstanding.
See, that's what I like about the Mpressor, like you just said. See, you could use it. See, I use it on drum bus, but I can also take it off a drum bus and use it for vocals, which I've done before. I've tracked vocals with it. You can use it for mastering, which we're going to get into with the Museq EQ. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what I like. When you get one of your pieces of gear, it's not just say, okay, I can only use it for this. That's what I like to use it for, because that's just me. But if you only have that one piece, you can use it for everything. You feel what I'm saying? You can use it for the mastering, the mixing, mix bus, vocals, drums, guitar, whatever you want to use it for. It's enough functionality in there that you can use it. Even with the tilt EQ. The tilt EQ boosts that low end up so much that it's like very big, man. Like even with my tilt EQ is at like 2.5. Like, you feel what I'm saying? So it's like 2.5 to the left, which boosts up the low end and cuts the high end. And my drums, I got this. Oh man, my drums just like sound, they got balls to them, you know what I'm saying? It's not puny balls, it's got balls and everything. And then it's like, even with the what else is on there? Like even with the negative ratios, it gives the rhythm, like the whole rhythm to the thing. Like I love the Mpressor, dude. Like completely, it's been one of my favorite like drum bus or whatever bus you want to put it on. It's been like the go-to for almost everything. I just got the Museq EQ too to complement that, man, and stuff. And that's a really powerful mastering and mixing EQ, man. What came up with that when you created that? Like, what you have in mind?
It was so first we came off with the Alpha, and then a year later we came with the Mpressor, and then to let's say complete the line, we came up with the Museq with the same philosophy, with his transparent sound and so I think for me the combination of Alpha and Museq, or Mpressor and Museq, is killer. So when I do mastering here, mostly I use more Alpha, but with Alpha and Museq I do masterings way better than people with way more gear or plugins. So the sonic Karacter is really great, and I'm creating a huge sound stage, and the Museq is a similar idea and sound philosophy behind.
Yeah, because I love the thing I like about the Museq EQ. You have 5 bands plus the warm button, so you can really dig in. You feel what I'm saying? Like if you're doing mastering, and you might get a master that has an annoying little sound. You're like, okay, instead of me plugging up the plugin, I just want to dig in here and take that sound out. With that Museq EQ, you could totally do that, and you can smooth up the transients with the warm, how it extends the low end and the top end. Like, yeah, man, that thing is really good, because you're the first one I've seen that has an actual warm button and it's not a gimmick. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, it's a real live, it does what it says it's going to do. It's going to warm it up.
So basically, I wanted also the philosophy behind nearly all the tools are that you have a very wide range what you can do with this. From, let's say, with the Mpressor, for example, only a little bit of compression, even if it's only 2 dB, or you can do far to the extreme. And this, let's say, with a Karacter, you can do only very subtle thing going on a master bus, or you crank it up like a distortion box. And then is my philosophy to have the extreme both ends, so we have a very broad range what you can do with that. But it's controllable. So, for example, the culture vulture was a little bit of a thing that we look at when we design the Karacter. But the problem there was that the gaining was very extreme. If you have the input, drive, and output, you really have to dig in, and all the time you have to change the levels. And we make it more intelligent, and you have one drive control, which is basically an input drive, but it compensates the output. Normally, if you have an input drive, it gets louder, and then it gets distortion. And with the VCA-based concept, we can compensate, and then you can focus on only the drive of the sound and don't have to look too much at the level. And so also the ranges of a parameter are important if they're playing good or not. And with the Mpressor, for me, it's like driving a sports car. If you do a turnaround, you feel it directly. And other compressors, you do something, am I right or not? Is something changing? You're not so sure. And with the Mpressor, it tells you directly, I'm here, and this is the sound you get. And I think then you are very fast to have the setting you want.
Yeah, I agree. The Mpressor is not boring at all. It's far from that, man. Like if you change a setting on there, you're gonna hear it. But like I like the gain limiter on there. Like even the limiter, like it just like if you do like say you do 5 dBs of compression, when you put the limiter on to only limit 2, it hits hard, man. Like it knocks hard. It knocks really hard, man. Yeah. What made you do that?
The idea was normally you have to find a setting with threshold and ratio for the maximum gain reduction. And my example was always you have a drum loop going on, and then the drummer is doing the tom break, boom, boom, boom. And then the compressor normally puts down again more gain reduction. Yeah, and with the limiter, you say, okay, only let's say do 6 dB, and that's it. And with this, you don't you have more dynamic back again, and that was the idea behind this concept.
That's really good. That's what I'm saying, yo. Even if you do dance music or even with hip hop and you want to do the pumping effect and stuff, usually you have to do a side chain and do this and then do the pumping effect. With this, you can just do the pumping effect with the negative ratios and stuff. If you have the right release and the right attack, yo, the pumping effect just automatically starts coming like automatically. Like you find there's a good rhythm to it, man. Like that's why I said like the Mpressor. Like for me, I focus a lot on drums, man. Like a ton. Like I might spend weeks on drums.
Also, this anti-lock function is exactly made for pumping effects. Normally, on the alpha, it's the opposite. There is to make the release as inaudible as possible. But with the Mpressor, when you put anti-lock, it's really this pumping effect. So it's doing the gain reduction, holding a little bit and snap it back very fast. And when you do the control of the timing, then you get this groovy effect. And then in combination with the gain reduction limiter, you have the full control about the amount of gain reduction you are using.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Dude, like I said, man, the stuff that I could do with this is it'll take me about 5 plugins to do with something else. You feel what I'm saying? With this is definitely like yeah, it's been my, it's been my main compressor. It's like, I don't know how much more to say to that. It's been my main, and I've had a shit ton of other compressors before, but that has stayed on my mix bus. And like I said, I got the Museq EQ now, which I keep on my entire mix, man. I keep it almost in a set and forget thing, because every time I mix, I'm cutting or boosting the same thing. So I keep it more in a set and forget, and it sounds great. Even with the 3D, even if you just put it on there and put no cuts or boosts and just leave it, it gets real 3D. Like everything is bigger.
Thanks.
Yeah, it gets way bigger, man. Dude, now with the alpha, now this is my personal thing. Now I'm going to go to my own personal thing. Okay, the alpha compressor, man. Like, bro, what is up with that? Because that thing is like beastly, man. Like, it seems like you buy that one thing and you're set for life.
Yeah, so also the alpha is something in mastering, but you can do for everything. So it's not for a specific genre or type of music. It's made for everything. You can use it for classic, for rock, for R&B, for trap, for electronic music. And the basic sound philosophy is the same, to make it larger, bigger, nicer, and you enjoy more the music, so it will enhance nearly all kinds of music, and that's the basic idea for the alpha. And so I've done so many mastering myself, and I mean many people do masterings with this, and the whole concept is, in my opinion, way more than only a compressor. So if you compare the alpha to a standard bus compressor, it can do way more for you. It's more like a toolbox with also the audio filters, with S metrics, with parallel, and also even with the soft clipper. I'm using my alpha as my last part of my mastering chain before my converter is coming, and then I do a fine adjustment of my soft clipper settings to my converter, and then I can use my gain knob to drive it more or less into the soft clipper, and so it prevents me a little bit from my peaks. In most of the cases, I don't do any plugin after this. So and the comparison is really amazing when I use the alpha and Museq on Mpressor compared to the original version. And when you do a loudness comparison between this is amazing what the alpha can do for you.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what you're saying basically is that, yo, you could, even if you do it for mastering, you can use the alpha as your compressor and your limiter to push, and your, so you basically got 3 pieces of gear you have to buy that you can get into this one piece that if you push your mix into it, it's soft clips, and you don't even have to use a limiter, no plug-in, no nothing. So you're getting the organic sound of your mix and master through this piece. That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I like about your company, man. It's a one-stop shop. Like, I can just come to your place, get all the pieces I need, and then I'm set. Like, you feel what I'm saying? It's a complete one-stop shop for a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, and a producer. You feel what I'm saying? Because nowadays, the producer is the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer, like how it was in dance music back in the days. You feel what I'm saying? Hip-hop is the only one in the 90s and 2000s that they say, okay, I have to go get a mix engineer, I have to go get a mastering engineer. Unlike dance music, where stuff like that, where the DJ was the producer, the mix engineer, and the mastering engineer. We're coming like back in a circle again now.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
So I think also the line with the Qubes now, with the 500 series, with the 19-inch and the high-end stuff, it's something what is affordable for everybody. And I think with the flexibility of the concept, you can use it for everything. And I think that is the cool idea behind the concept of our gear. Because it's for mixing, and I know many people using an Xpressor and Xfilter for their mastering chain, and it works pretty good.
Well, that's what I had. I had the Xpressor as well. And so I had the Xpressor, and I have the Karacter. The Karacter I love once again, on drums and stuff. Like, if you want to make like that lo-fi cassette tape type sound, you can do that with the Karacter. You feel what I'm saying? If you want to beef up a little bit. Like, that's why I say, yeah, I personally, this is my personal thing, and I quote myself on this, I really feel your gear is one of the first ones made for hip-hop, EDM, and whatever. Like, I really do, man, because a lot of people, when they make gear, the first thing they're thinking is, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're just going to do a band, boom, boom, boom. But your gear, even though you had that thought, it translated over even better to the electronic world, which made me a fan of it. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true, because on one hand, my let's say sound philosophy in terms of transparency comes more from rock, but basically I'm more into electronic music. And in the end of the 90s, I've done a lot of created some very specific units myself. So during the time at SPL, sometimes there was some, let's say, an enclosure was not used, or the PCB board. So I bring in some complete different stuff in there. So most of the cases, some filters, auto filters, LFO, stuff like this. And I have a bunch of equipment like this, which are more effect boxes. So and during that time, I also made some electronic music, was driven by music, and the way to create all these sounds and scapes in electronic music. So I was a big fan of this, and therefore all my devices are tested with synthesizers, with bass and everything, to check out if this is possible for electronic music. And especially, I think in electronic music you need this transparent sound, this more pushing to forward. And compared to vintage equipment, was made back in the days for their purpose and needed, and was great. But nowadays there's other music genres, and you need another sound stage.
I agree, including with the loudness war. Like, even with the alpha, like the fact you can be top competitive in the loudness war, but not have it to where it's hurting your ears. Like, you have a soft clipper, where a lot of these guys don't have that. They'll just take a limiter and just shoot it down, and it just is killing you. You feel what I'm saying? Like, your gear is like, yo, we can get the thing loud, we can get the thing sounding good, but it's still going to be a smooth analog sound. It's not going to be like a pokey sound. Everything's going to be nice and smooth. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, like, and even with your gear, like, if you have the cube, you have the rack mount, like, anything you want is going to be the highest quality, and it's all going to be its own thing. You feel what I'm saying? Where a lot of other companies will come out with a piece of gear, then they'll just cut down. Where you don't do that. You're like, okay, you could buy all of it, and it's all going to work to the highest quality. This is what you want.
Yeah, I mean, that comes from the technology that we're using. And I think that's the biggest difference, maybe compared to other companies, because we're using discrete technologies. That means we make it really from the single piece, from a single transistor. And normally, if you want to create an analog device, you can use tubes for this, or maybe integrated circuits, and then you can use different op-amps, which is an integrated circuit. And we're creating, let's say, our op-amps ourselves. So I have an influence to the whole circuitry, to the sound and transient response and how it will react and everything. And if you open up our devices, you will see a bunch of transistors. And I'm really good in to combine this and also to go further. So one thing that like a compressor is needed is a VCA. It's a voltage controlled amplifier. So you put a DC voltage in, and then the level will drop or change. And there are only a few companies making integrated circuits for a VCA. But when I checked them out, this was not the sound that I wanted, not the transparency, not the punch in there. So we created our own VCAs with discrete transistors. And that's the reason why our gear, or the key, why, let's say, an Mpressor, an Alpha, and other sounds different, because we do a core component ourselves. And I think that is one of the key part why we're different to others. They only can use the VCAs that are on the market and have a specific sound, and we do our own. And in all the range and the different devices we have, I have always created a different VCA, not only one type. So the Alpha is different than the Mpressor, than the Xpressor, then the Karacter. Always improve it or do it a little different. Even the op amps that I'm creating is always a little bit different and improving them. And it's like playing with Lego for me. So you get in all the small pieces and making a bigger one. And that the other companies are more like Playmobil, where you have to fix, everything's fixed and put it together. And I think that is our, as a secret, why we can do everything ourselves, but also passive component like resistors, like capacitors, the power supply. Everything has an influence to the sound, and if you have a certain sound in your mind, then you know if you change something, it's going in this or this direction. Then you can decide what you want, and that's the reason why our gear is have a like a signature sound, and because I wanted to have it in this direction.
No, I love your signature sound, man. Like I said, man, I've become a fan. You feel what I'm trying to say? Like, completely. I've totally become a fan. The only one I don't have is the Alpha, which I need an Alpha, wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to give you my address. I need an Alpha sent to my house. It's up for real. I definitely need an Alpha, man. That's the only one I don't have out the collection. But no, dude, and even with your promo video, I saw you had like one of the dudes had an MPC 60, and that's when I knew. I was just like, oh, man, this dude's got an MPC 60 in the promo video. Like, I've never seen that before. That's so cool, man. I've actually owned a couple of those and stuff, yo. So I thought that was really cool.
Now, the fun with the electronic music is, for me, you can do way more than in traditional recording. So if you're recording a band and you have good microphones, good musicians, you only change there a bit of EQing, bit of compression. But in electronic music, you can do way more. You have some samples, and then you can crank it up to extreme EQ settings or compression settings or distortion. So the freedom of manipulating is way more than traditional recording. And that is when I talk about my equipment, that's why it has both ends. One only a little bit in a high quality, but it can go to very extreme to be very creative. And my personal fun is always to combine stuff like an Xpressor or an Mpressor with a Karacter, with an Xfilter, and combine it, and let's say we put a loop in there, manipulate them, then it's completely different. And I think with an attitude, with some power in there, that's what I really love to play and create my own loops and sounds with this kind of manipulating.
No, I agree, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, with your gear, see, this is the thing about it, man. A lot of producers, including the young ones nowadays, think you have to have 30 plugins to manipulate a sound to where they'll get one of your pieces of gear, like an Mpressor, and you can manipulate the shit out of it. And then even if you get, like, the Karacter after that, you can make it to the lo-fi sound if you want it, that whole lo-fi cassette tape sound with the Mpressor. You feel what I'm saying? Then you can get a Museq EQ and cut and carve with the way you want. But we talking about 3 pieces of gear where you would need, like, 50 plugins to do that. You feel what I'm saying? Well, you get those in 3 high quality pieces, and then after you finish that, you can still take those pieces, mix your record, master your record, put your record out in 3 pieces. Exactly. You feel what I'm saying? In 3 pieces, where it takes people like, I have to get a whole bundle. Like, nah, you just get those 3 pieces out of the set, and then you ready to roll.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the biggest difference between digital and analog domain, because compression, EQing, and distortion, these are really the things that analog are really good in, and way better than the digital because of the resolution. So if you only sample something, then the resolution is okay with the, let's say, 48 kilohertz. But when you start to make changes in frequency response and compressors, then the analog domain is by far better. For example, the Museq, where the warm button is in, that's basically that the one part of the amplifier will slow down. I make it make it slower. But when you do the measurement, it's only, let's say, about 100 kilohertz where you can measure this effect, but you can hear this. So there are many things going on. And an analog circuitry, what you can hear, which is way up to 20 kilohertz, but will have an influence or an equalizer. If you put, let's say, by 5 kilohertz, you boost something, and you look at your sample editor, there are not that many samples to represent the waveform. And if you do some editing there with an EQ, the analog is way more precise than a digital version. And also the amplifiers in the signal path have an influence to the sound. That's the reason why, let's say, one EQ sounds different to another because of the amplifiers. One is faster or slower, more THD, whatever that is. And in the digital domain, you won't get that fast. So for me, it is like when you have analog could be very vintage, lo-fi, a lot of distortion, could be more very high-end, let's say like your alpha, this range, and the digital is more like this. Even if you have a lot of plugins, you won't not go out of this range, but if you go to analog, you can go like this.
Completely. Even with the headroom on analog, man, you could push it harder. There's a lot of things you can do that you can't do with plugins. Plugins to me is more of fast food things, like more of a McDonald's, where we're talking more like some good restaurant food. You feel what I'm saying? Some 5-star stuff going on here, and everything. You get more for your money. You know what I'm saying? Like when you buy one of your pieces, you get way more for your money than you would with the plugin situation. You feel what I'm saying? Like you said, you can go from super clean if you want to completely dirty all in one piece, to where a lot of times you have to buy like 3 or 4 pieces just to do that. You feel what I'm saying? Of something else, and then still got to buy something else to get the mastering and mixing done. So that's why I say I love about your stuff, man. Like hands down, is the manipulation, everything. Like I said, it's been a total game changer in my setup, yo. And I gotta like completely tell you once again, I need an alpha. I gotta try alpha, bro. I see people with alpha, man. I feel like I should have an alpha in my setup, man, like completely and everything. I've been hearing about this thing for about 2 or 3 years now, and I'm like, man, I gotta try this thing, this alpha, man. I see mastering studios with it. That's the only thing I don't have is the alpha.
But I think it's more important to have, let's say, not only alpha in the studio, but to have the other stuff in the studio, like Xfilter, like an Xpressor, what you use in the production. Because when you run your samples through this device and print it again, and you make this with more tracks, then the whole mix will grow. And
I agree.
It's better rather than have a, let's say, worse mix going to the alpha. So it's better to manipulate all the symbols, the tracks itself, the kicks, the snares, to have the transients in there. And I think that's a good way also for young producers, having only a few pieces but in good quality. They can use it on each track and then put it on their master track, and then I really have a big step.
Well, me personally, the reason why I keep on saying alpha, I want mine for bragging rights. You feel what I'm saying? I want mine for brag. I just want to call somebody up right now who I know and say, I got an alpha sitting in my studio. Like, you feel what I'm saying? That's why I keep on giving the signals of the alpha. But no, you're 100% right, yo. If you're a new producer and you're on a program, man, if you get something like the Cube or get something like the Xpressor and stuff like that, man, you're ready to roll. Like, you're more than ready. Like I said, your company does not cut. It's not a cut down company. It's we make things for each thing. You feel what I'm saying? So we have this one if you want to go here. We have this one if you go here. Either whatever way you want to go, we have it for you. Even if you're a traveling DJ, you can get the Cube, hook it up to your mixer, and do all your effects while you're cutting. You feel what I'm saying? You can use that for that as well. So no, that's why I personally feel when I tell people about y'all, I feel in my heart that it's made for people like myself who do electronic music. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, it's the first company that I've seen in a while that's really made. There's only like 2 other companies I know that have stuff like that, but yours is made for like me, like the producer. Like you said, hey, Bless, we made this for you. Like, you feel what I'm saying?
I mean, the truth is that actually most of the music is electronic produced, and it could be pop, but it's also R&B, hip hop. It's all electronic based, and therefore, I think the music industry is looking way to the back and say, okay, the Beatles recorded this album with that preamp, so you have to need this. But hey, we are doing completely different music, and I think when you go to analog and use this kind of equipment, you can make a difference to another production. I think that is important to know for young producers, because everybody have its DAW, its samples and everything, and the sound is similar. And I think when you start to go to analog and do the processing, you make the difference. And I heard it also from many other producers using the equipment in this way. They're making amazing sound. And I think the next thing we have to know is the studios are home studios, actually. People are having small rooms and producing their stuff there. And so not only 19-inch equipment is, you don't have the space sometimes for this. So I see so many tables with an iMac on and speakers, and that's it. And therefore not 19-inch rack space. So that was the idea of the Cube. I go into one producer and he have an envelope left over because his API rack was full. And so, hey, could you create something, some kind of a housing? That was the idea for the Cube. And I love the Cube. Even here, I have a small one stand next to me on a stand with a microphone preamp in there, and I love it. So, and I'm at home. I'm also setting up a little home studio setup, and the Cube is essential for this, and also for traveling, or even in a recording room where you put your preamp next to the microphone. I love that concept.
Yeah, I want to try the preamp. I haven't tried that one yet and stuff, when it comes to that. I definitely want to try that. And so I've seen that and stuff with the Cube and everything. And I agree. And another thing about the Cube is that say if you're a producer and that you only have a budget for 3 or 4 pieces at the moment, and you don't want to feel like buying a 500 series rack, you can just go straight to the Cube and say, okay, I'm going to get the Cube and I'm fine. Like, you feel what I'm saying? And then I want to go from there on. Where a lot of times, and I've seen this in the past, where a person will have enough money to get 3 pieces of gear, but then they still have to get the 500 series rack. But with you're saying, okay, just dead the 500 series rack if you don't have it. We have the Cube for you, and you can just grab that. See, I like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, you make stuff that's for today. Like, you found it's not for like the 70s, it's not for the 60s, it's for today.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is also why I'm also in discussion with young producers, and my clients, I think, are more the young generation. So back in the past, we wanted to address the engineers that are famous and having the big bands that are already known. But the truth is that we're addressing way more the younger producers, making more electronic music, and the sound what these people are producing is really amazing. So therefore, this is for me high-end for your studio at home, and also with the Cube. I think the problem with space is really huge, and with the Cube you can put it on top of it and make it like and I think that is important. And also you have jack connectors in there, so if you have a keyboard or synthesizer MPC, you put it directly with your jack connections, because most of APIs are only XLR connections, and then you have adapters and stuff like this. And I really love it to have a synthesizer, do some processing with the Cubes or other stuff, and enhance it, print it, and then you're happy. So you have something as a waveform which sounds great, and not okay, it's nice, but now I have to check the next plugin, and
exactly.
And you're missing the excitement. I think that is because in the 90s, where they produced mostly analog on analog desk and have tons of samplers and synthesizers and all these samplers, even when they were digital internally, there is some analog circuitry. The DA converters were different, the analog output state was different, so each device sounds a little different and had its benefits, and then you combine on an analog mixing desk, and all these effects are lost actually. So if you play back a sample in Ableton, it sounds the same like in Logic. So there's no interaction in there, and even if you put plugins in there, in the analog domain, each device had an input state, output state, a transformer, some kind of power supply. All this will color the sound a little bit. And then you go to the mixing desk, and everything will shape the sound, sometimes in a good way, but also sometimes in a bad way. So I wouldn't recommend to use the cheapest mixer for a hip-hop producer, because you will lose the sound. So here, the standard for digital is very high. So to be better, you need really high-end analog equipment to have a benefit of this. And I think with our idea and what we're creating, you have the benefit.
I agree. And another thing I want to add on top of that is not even just that. You mix faster and create faster with the hardware than you will with a plugin. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, you feel it more. It's more of an organic feel and everything. You get the point. You can get from point A to B way faster, man. Like 10 times faster. You feel like, for example, even with my drum bus, like, I just send it out to the Mpressor. It's already set the way I want to. I do my cuts and stuff with a FabFilter EQ and stuff, and then call it a day. And then on my main mix bus is my my Museq EQ. So I do all my cuts there. there, do a couple of things, and the mix is finished. It's not like, okay, I gotta get this, and this, and I still gotta add this. It's like, come on, man. That's like that's fast food mixing, man. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you will totally get a more of an organic feel to where your client, customer, even the stuff you just want to create for yourself, you'll feel good about. You feel what I'm saying? And as far as home studios go, that is the new thing now. Major studios are not the thing no more, like, at all. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, now it's more of the guys who have the home studios, like myself, who have that type of gear in there and who feel good about it. Like, and you talk about space, dude, I have no space. So a person like me with a cube is beyond perfect to put on my desk and rock it from there.
And also the thing is, in music, I mean, when people listen to music, they do it mostly with their heart. So they listen to something and, oh, that's nice or not. And I think the analog stuff can really put it more to emotion, that you feel it better, love it more, start to dance faster. And I think sometimes I thought we are too much into the digital area. So you're looking to a huge screen with the arrangement. We don't listen that much anymore. We're only looking and we see the arrangement. We know what's coming next. And back in the days in the analog, you have a mixing desk and it's more intuitive. So, okay, the height needs to be louder and softer. You do some EQ adjustment. I think with hardware, you can do similar. So when you have an analog, let's say a compressor, you focus more on hearing because you can close your eyes and listen only and feel more. And I think that is what's lost, because when you have a door, you always have to control your mouse. So you really have to need that feedback. Where is your mouse? Where have a click? You could not switch your eyes off. So therefore, I think that is the difference in analog domain.
I totally agree. Analog domain is more feel, where the computer domain is more like technical, more robotic and everything. I totally agree.
I mean, that absolutely, it's pros. I mean, you can see the full arrangement, you see everything where it's coming. So the overview of the whole is amazing. You can navigate very fast when it comes, but to sound processing and emotions and impact, that's different. I mean, all electronic music are based on rhythms. And
I totally agree.
You pick some samples together and then it makes or not. It's the same. You go on a live concert. Here, one drummer is hitting hard and making the groove, and the next is not good. And in electronic music, you really need some tools to change this to the way it starts to groove. And I think therefore you need real good equipment.
I totally agree, and that's where you come in at. So no, I totally agree 100%, man. Well, bro, I just want to be honest, man. I appreciate this interview, man. Like, hands down, man. I appreciate to be able to speak to the person that makes the gear that I use every day for what I do, whether it be production, filmmaking, whatever it is. When I'm doing my score music, I can use this to get it popping. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, I really appreciate that, man. And once again, I need an alpha. I definitely need an alpha.
Thanks very much also. So thank you very much for talking to you. It was very interesting to hear it from the perspective of a producer and as a user to get a feedback like this. So thanks very much for you.
Oh, dude, I love it, man. Trust and believe, man. I have all your stuff. So I got to get the preamp. I'm going to try that on this new records I got coming out. I'm going to send you some stuff too. So you can hear what's going on, man, for real, man. So I definitely appreciate it, my brother. It was good talking to you, man.
Thanks.
All right? Peace, bro.
Yeah, bye.